Dirty crypto, also known as crypto with no source of funds. The mainstream media screams money laundering, but the truth is this. Many people who actually want to follow the rules get the exact same label. Thousands of people today are stuck with coins that were legitimately bought years ago, and today they can't cash it out and they're treated as guilty until proven innocent by their own governments. Why is that? Because the exchange that they used 10 years ago is now dead. Or they got paid directly in crypto at a time when there were no clear regulations around it. And with decade and a wave of crypto regulations kicking in, it's getting nearly impossible to cash out your crypto without getting frozen, flagged, or taxed into oblivion if you don't have the fully documented transaction history. In our last video, a few of you asked for a deeper dive on how to legally reduce taxes and cash out crypto anonymously using flexible accounting. So that's what we're gonna do. In the next few minutes, I will break down the exact system that people use to create this paper trail for crypto that has no source of funds and move that money tax-free. Whether you're sitting on a bunch of crypto that's undeclared or you just want to cash out anonymously before the next wave of enforcement kicks in and protect what's yours, this video is for you. So let's dive in. Let me answer your first question. Why don't crypto tax havens work? Why can't I go, say, to Dubai, buy goods and services with my crypto, and cash out tax-free? Because it's getting harder every single day. Even the crypto tax havens, such as Dubai, Georgia, Paraguay, they're all tightening up. They may still ask you where the money came from. And the problem is they're just being forced into compliance by global watchdogs such as the FATF and the OECD. So if your crypto has no paper trail, they may still ask for one. Now, let's say that you do end up going to Dubai and you contact an OTC dealer who helps you buy property, cars. Heck, he may even help you bring it all into a bank account. So far, so good. But then what? The problem and the issue arises if you ever want to move away from Dubai, move it abroad, say back to Europe. Those international banks will still want to know, where did the cash come from? And basically you're stuck in that crypto tax haven. And they won't accept the response of, I got it from crypto trading. No. They'll want to know the entire backstory and a financial origin that they actually like. And that's where flexible accounting comes into play, to build that backstory. It's a traditional technique that many businesses use, and so can you. It's nothing new, it just hasn't really been talked about. Essentially, what you're gonna do is create a new light for your cryptos for both banks and governments. As Ian Griffiths put it out in his book, Creative Accounting 2 + 2 = 5, every company in the country is fiddling with its profits. Every set of published accounts is based on books that are either slowly cooked or completely roasted. So the goal is to present your cryptos favorably through accounting records, financial statements, invoices, agreements, so that it creates a new legitimate identity that complies with all of those financial and legal regulations. Now, with all of that out of the way, the first step in creative accounting is to build a business structure, because without that, there's nothing really to write off. And the reason why that matters is because businesses pay tax after expenses, whereas employees, they pay it before expenses. That's why if you've gotten a salary, first you pay tax and only then you get to pay for electricity, rent, etc. For businesses, it's flipped. So the principle is simple. You want to increase those business expenses by paying yourself for services into a company that you control. And that way, all of your gains get to stay into the system that you've built instead of getting paid out in taxes and eaten up. The goal is to find products and services that are the easiest to inflate those expenses as much as possible. Sure, you can buy a company car, you can get office supplies, or write off some of those director meetings abroad, but it only takes you so far. What you really want is a system, one that allows you to pay recurring high fees into a company that you control so that you can move those profits from a high-taxed to a low-taxed country. And most importantly, it has to be easy to set up and obviously follow all of the rules, such as transfer pricing, economic substance, so that it holds under scrutiny. That's why the smarter approach, and one used by wealthy businessmen and families, is this. Do not sell services. Sell access to something you own, aka intellectual property. And the reason why is when you license out intellectual property, say an algorithm, a process, a software system, or a design tool, you're not charging for labor. You're charging for access. And the value of that access, it's much harder to determine and much harder to argue with, quite frankly. Think about it in this way. When you're charging for a service, it has to be justified by market rates. And those are pretty easy to look up with today's internet age. Meanwhile, a license, that's much harder to determine because there's far more perceived value, and it gives you far more room to move around with. In fact, IPs have some of the highest markups, and they're quite easy to write things off with. Patents, trademarks, licensing agreements, they're not just tools, they can also be used as assets. You can lease them out, for example, or you can use them as collateral for a loan. In fact, in specific jurisdictions, royalties, they're taxed at a lower rate than regular income. Now, the most important rule, however, is to make sure that your niche is specific to your talents as well as tailored to your business requirements. Today, for example, it would be very easy for you to use AI to build your business and cash out your cryptos because it's new tech, you don't really have a clear valuation on it, but and this part is very important, you would actually have to be a real programmer to build something that would pass the audit. Otherwise, you can't just throw in some ChatGPT prompts and call it proprietary tech. It won't pass the smell test. It needs actual legs. It has to have a real reason to justify the IP. Now, what's the simplest method that has the highest markup that anybody can use? It's called franchise licensing. It all comes from the book The E-Myth, and it's the simplest method to convert your business model into IP. Basically, you're copying McDonald's. So what you're going to do is create a structure that licenses out your business model, and in turn, you get to charge a licensing fee. And that includes everything from the operating manuals to the advertising and marketing playbooks, to the design assets, even the onboarding process. Everything from the business methods to the logos. The most important thing, however, is to make sure that it is structured properly. Because creative accountants, they're very good at actually building these contracts, the substance and the activity behind these agreements. You can't just put in a bunch of buzzwords on a WordPress website and expect to breeze through an audit. All those internal documents, from the business applications to the employee recruiting and training manuals, they actually have to exist. They have to be written on paper. Now, the beauty of using this technique is that none of the work that you put in is lost. What you're doing is actually valid for both your current and future businesses. You're actually building something that you can scale and leverage in the future. And another asset is that because it's called a business licensing agreement, you can actually bypass a lot of countries that slap on a heavy tax on royalties, such as in the EU. So for more ideas on what actually goes into this setup, I highly recommend you to read The E-Myth. In fact, if you're a small business owner, this should be your Bible. Let's finish off by actually explaining how you will structure this offshore IP company. Because here's something important to understand before you build this system. Most countries today will report this financial data through common reporting standards and tax treaties. Even the offshore tax havens, they will report back home through the FHTP's global rules on substantial activities. Put simply, if your offshore company has no real office, no business activity, maybe 1 or 2 clients, try yourself, then those offshore banks will report back home and the tax man is going to come knocking, asking, are you just dodging taxes by billing yourself? But here's the loophole. If you're not a US citizen, then US companies may be your best tool for flexible accounting. Why? Because the United States does not participate in the common reporting standards. And most banks, they won't automatically report that your company has very few clients or it's just holding an IP. So to give you an example outline, we're going to use an Estonian company as your main business entity. It doesn't have to be this way, it's just that Estonian companies are quite reputable with banks and they don't tax undistributed profits yet. Now, your company is going to be billed by your US LLC. We're going to call it LLC number 1 for all the licensing. And a mistake that many people make is that they automatically will distribute those profits to a tax haven, say Dubai or Cyprus. And the problem with this is that most tax havens today require ultimate beneficial ownership reporting. And they also share information automatically with your home country through common reporting standards. And it's very easy to see that this is quite a circular structure, and you're going to have a lot of questions. So the smarter approach is to have a second US LLC that actually owns the IP. So we're going to call it LLC number 2, and they're very easy to set up and maintain, so you're not going to pay more. And the point is that LLC number 1 is going to be like a contractor that's going to get the license from LLC number 2 that will own the intellectual property. And then you can distribute all those profits to a tax haven. Because, and I want to underline this part, it's very important that it doesn't seem like you're secretly controlling that company. Because if you do, then controlled foreign corporation rules kick in, and your home country may tax all the income anyway. That's why people use nominees, they use trustees and this layered structure to build that separation. On paper, it should look like somebody else is managing your company, not you pulling the strings behind the scenes and thinking that you can get away with it. Now, I actually made a video on controlled foreign corporation rules. You can check it out over there in the right-hand side of the screen. But what about US citizens? Well, you can still use flexible accounting, though offshore structures aren't going to give you a huge bang for your buck. And the reason why is because, first off, most countries, they do implement FATCA, and that means that all of your information will be automatically reported to the IRS, and you're taxed on worldwide income. So it requires you to use far more trusts and charitable foundations in order to build that separation between you and your assets. And guess what? That increases the costs dramatically. So for US citizens, the best setup is actually to have an onshore US company, because even though you're going to have to comply with a lot of economic substance requirements, because the IRS is constantly watching you, it's still a far easier and simpler setup to maintain in the long term. Now, I know there'll be a couple of people in the comments who'll get triggered and they'll say, why go through all this effort? It's so complicated. To all of you guys, I say, I hope you're not sitting on a bunch of undeclared crypto, because if you are, good luck cashing it out. It's not going to get easier with time. It's only going to get harder. That's why I said in my previous video that all of these prepaid crypto debit cards, all of these online service providers, their time is running out as well. Regulation isn't getting lighter, it's getting heavier. Scrutiny is increasing, not decreasing. So if you think that years down the line, it's going to get simpler to cash out crypto without a transaction history, you're dreaming. I made a previous video summarizing pretty much all of the methods to cash out your crypto anonymously. You can check it out over there. It's great for smaller amounts, but that's it for today's video. If you enjoy this type of content, you can comment down below or share it with a friend to boost the algorithm. I'll be seeing you though next time, and until then, bye-bye.